just having a couple of tweets come through the wires from Donald Trump, so we'll be keeping an eye to see if any more comes out. You've also got Mike Pence, the Vice President, being interviewed on Fox and Friends as of right now, so any comments that come through the wires on that as well will be likely to move markets. Overnight, main headline, we've seen the tariffs go from 10 to 25% on the remaining $325 billion for now anyway. The market, you could argue, has priced that in this week from Sunday's couple of tweets from Donald Trump, which was seen as drift lower, but perhaps not the biggest move overall to the downside. Still not massively far off that all-time high again in S&P. If we just look at it from a percentage point of view, just 3.5%. I would be just a bit cautious going into the back end of the week, especially where we may finish and what can happen over the weekend. I wouldn't want to be holding any medium-term long positions just yet. Having a look at the calendar for the remainder of the day as well, because of course it's not just going to be Trump that moves these markets. You have some data out at 1:30 UK time, 7:30 of course US, from the core CPI numbers. You've got from both, well, you've got the US numbers around there, and also Canadian employment change at that time as well. So the Canadian dollar against the US dollar likely to be a very choppy market on that. Going into the back end of the week, of course, it'll be interesting to see where we finish for these markets. And having a look just at the S&P on that longer term chart, you can see the importance of where we've tested so far this week, and whether we can maybe confirm a break below the previous high that we had back on the 21st of March, I think will be pretty key to the downside. That would open up the door and people would start looking again at the highs perhaps we had back on the 17th of October, around 28.25 in the futures. So a couple of levels to be aware of. Right now the most important one, in my opinion, around 28.66. Can we get back above there, or do we actually confirm a break below, and then sentiment can start to perhaps drift lower again next week? Also longer term, and this would be more affected by the dollar and the data that comes out in about 50 minutes or so, will be oil and how that moves off the price of the dollar, strength or weakness. Just having a look at the Fibonacci here, which acted as the 50% Fibonacci, which acted as a great level of support. But you can see just how important those highs recently have been. Really strong support going back from January, and there was a resistance just struggling to break through. However, not too far from that today. Be keeping an eye on 1290. Can we get a daily close above here, and then gold perhaps can get a further follow through. So the downside key trend line that I'll be keeping aware of. The US data may well be the main driver for this market. Also, just having a look at oil, it's starting to get squeezed. If we just zoom out here, you can see after it's pushed lower from a couple of Fridays ago, price really starting to have to make a decision, getting squeezed in from both the upside and the downside. So decision time soon, and where we finish the week, of course, again will be pretty important. Any questions, please do let me know, and obviously be on the mic throughout the day as well.